Hello everyone. Welcome to the GHPC developer stream for June of 2026. We have just put out an update a few days ago with some AI overhauls and some ground impacts. I hope everybody's been enjoying that. I am also joined here by Kavi.
Hello, hello.
As usual, we're going to show off some gameplay, answer some questions. Hope the audio is all good. So let me get my game
It's good on
running.
my end.
Cool. Kavi, you're good on my end too.
Hey, thanks. I'm really glad we are doing a dev stream this weekend because it's a pretty big anniversary, right?
Is it?
Yeah, 250 years. 250
Right,
years of
right.
Gunner Heat PC.
That's right. Yep.
Yep.
Listen, George told me I should make a tank game while we were crossing the Delaware, and I was like, I don't know, man, we're kind of busy right now. He's like, no, not now, in like 2020. I was like, okay, I'll think about it.
Franklin was all into that idea.
Yeah.
Wouldn't drop it.
Somebody asked if I got enough sleep. No, thank you for asking. Let's let's get right into it. Let me get my game running here. So it's going to be a little low key today because we are in a part of development where we're working on big things for the most part, and we're not doing teasers of those things if they're not ready to show. So, for example, campaign mode has been worked on quite a bit, and it's not ready to show because we're still in gameplay revisions on it, and I don't want to show something that's not actually the direction that it's going, so we're not showing it. Things like that. But what I will do is give a little overview of where things are at on the roadmap, which is much easier now that the roadmap shows the progress. So let's get that up really quick. Okay, so let's refer to the green marks. Basic campaign, this was done pretty quickly, it's finished. Fire support, planes, artillery, it's all done. Infantry, everything's done except for the deployable heavy weapons, which in this case is the Dragon ATGM. Soviets, done, with the exception of a couple of missile carriers, which we can talk about. Detailed crew, this is being worked on. I've seen a lot of cool stuff. The artists are not comfortable showing the work yet, so I'm not going to be showing it on stream, but it's coming along. Bundeswehr, this is done except for a couple of vehicles. I'm sure people have a pretty good idea which ones are missing here. And you know, I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this, the remaining West German vehicles to be added. Don't know if anyone's really interested in those, but I think it'd be cool. Enhanced destruction. Everything is done here except for structural damage, and we have a few prototypes of different types of structural damage. I say we have a pretty good chance of breaking tracks making it in, but other than that, we'll see what pans out. Expanded campaign. This is being worked on heavily. Not ready to show yet. And multiplayer. This is being worked on heavily. Also not ready to show. But I will say I've seen Kavi get team killed many times, which makes it all worthwhile. So
That won't happen when we're playing together. Don't worry.
no.
No.
What if I want it to happen?
I'll code it in so that can't happen with you.
You did do that actually. I think you specifically have a god mode that you like to use for testing.
Yeah. I got shit to do.
Okay, well. In any case, someone said, will there be team killing? Yeah, if we don't do anything specifically to prevent it, there is team killing in the multiplayer. So we've had a couple of impromptu sniper matches in the past. Anyway,
True.
let's get a build going here. So like I said, we're quite busy working on these remaining items. Most of them are not ready to show off, and we tend to add things to the game fairly quickly after they are ready. So we just went through a big dev cycle in between the last stream and this one, where the impacts became ready to show, especially the ground ones. So we gave those to our Patreon testers, did some revision cycles on stuff, and at the same time we were doing AI. And I'm not talking about generative AI bullshit, I'm talking about in-game NPC AI, like the kind we've had for decades. That has had a lot of improvement lately. There are other improvements planned for that, but we got the first batch out, and that has taken personally, most of my time has been devoted to that.
Oh yeah.
Along with Laura, one of our coders, and a few other people who are working on little aspects of that. I'm happy with how that's turned out so far. And so the gameplay that we do today on stream will feature more challenging enemy behavior. I think we'll continue the tradition of me confidently going into a mission and then getting my ass kicked, but we'll see.
You've gotten better over the years.
A little bit.
A little bit. Someone noted generative AI coming to the game, boycott GHPC. If that ever does happen, do that.
Yeah. If anyone's curious how we think about generative AI, I think it's in the FAQ for the game.
Yeah.
It rates a mention just to have it out there, and that's about it. Alright, let's get the screen up.
No plans at this time to do implementations or interactions or anything like that with the Steam Workshop. Modding at this time it's a Unity game. You guys are free to jump in, play around with it. We have a section in our Discord where there are a few modders there, so have at it. But we're busy working on the game. We are not looking to make tool sets or anything like that for mod support.
Yep. The question of will there be Steam Workshop is pretty much, it's a follow-on to the question of will there be mod support, and we're not doing dedicated mod support like built into the game. So it's all third-party for now. Let's see. I'll pull up a quick Abrams Alley so I can talk about stuff.
Always fun. People just coming on and saying impressed with how well optimized the game is. We've got a long way to go. Thank you for the kind words, but I feel like in the last few months, last set of patches, we've really done some cool stuff there. I'm happy to see where the game is going.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better since we got a dedicated optimization programmer specifically, because before we were doing it kind of as available. We try to do optimization as part of initial feature work. So let's say you're making a new thing in the game, you prototype it, you get it to do the thing it's supposed to do, and then you go back and say, well, I really don't need it scanning, looping through this every frame, or doing this or that, and then you try to revise it. So that's the initial optimization. But then, you only have so much time to work on it, and you got to do things. So then later on, somebody else might come along and say, okay, I've analyzed our frame times, and this thing that you just made takes up way more time than it could. I'm going to change the way it's built, and then that's the second pass of optimization. So we've been doing a lot of that second pass on stuff that's been in the game for a while, and that is where we're getting a lot of our gains in frames per second lately, as well as memory usage, VRAM usage, all that stuff. It's been quite good results. I'm happy with it. One of the things that we've done fairly recently is there have been some improvements to the fire gating on the Abrams. There's a system in modern stabilized tanks where it will prevent the firing circuit from completing until the gun barrel is lined up with where the stabilizer wants it. So for example, in the Abrams, the gun sight, the stuff that you're actually looking through here when you're scanning and turning your turret, that sight is stabilized independently. And it's a very small piece compared to the whole turret or the whole gun, so it's quick to get on the angle that you're trying to hold. Um, you can keep this thing steady with not a lot of effort mechanically. But the gun itself is big and heavy, and it carries a lot of momentum. So there will be little fractions of a second where the gun is trying to catch up. Even in the real Abrams, with all of its mechanical prowess, it can't quite keep the gun perfectly lined up all the time. So what it does is it measures how far off is the gun from where I want the gun to be. Kind of like the missile knows where it is, the deviations, it's the same. The gun knows where it is at all times. And if it is where it's not supposed to be, you can't fire. You hold the trigger down, and then a split second later, when it does line up, it lets it fire. Now this has been in the game for a long time. We have fire gating, but the game's physics cycle doesn't respond as quickly as the real tank stabilizer. So if we make the fire gating as strict as it is in the real tank, you'll basically never be able to fire if you're moving. It'll just spend all of its time trying to catch up. We recently did some revisions to that system. It's not the full revision that I'd like to do, that takes a little bit deeper overhaul, but we did a kind of a partial fix. So we can crank the fire gating down to a tighter tolerance, much closer to the real tank. It's sub 1 mil now, which the real Abrams also is. So the result of that is now you feel the effect of the fire gating more, and it won't let as many flyers out when you're moving and your gun's not quite lined up. Now, if it lets you fire at all, it's going to be much closer to what you wanted. So I'm going to actually do all these shots moving and see what happens. Normally, the game would be... It'll let me take these shots, but they won't hit. But now, I'm taking the shots, and I expect most or all of these to hit. And a lot of this comes down to your tracking skill as well. You have to have the correct range, you have to be holding the reticle steady on target. There's a lot of technique in gunnery, because this is not computerized tracking, this is manual tracking with hand controls. But if you do it correctly, the fire gating will take care of the rest. So that's an improvement now. I hit a little far right on that one. Ooh. They got my optics. Alright.
Good. Now you can play as God intended.
Yep.
It's very true.
Let's see if we can speed run this one. Somebody asking in chat, will there ever be multiplayer crewed vehicles? I assume you mean multi-crew, like more than one person in a tank. That is something we're attempting. It's not guaranteed because we're still early enough in the dev cycle for multiplayer that features can be cut if they become too much of a problem, but we are hoping for that. What else? Any more IFV or cavalry vehicles being added? So all of the IFVs that are due to be in the game are in the game. Since we only have the 4 countries, we've got the US, USSR, East Germany, West Germany. They all have their IFVs now. So those are the ones that are going to be in the game for 1.0. If we end up doing expansions post-release that have other countries or other time periods, theaters of war, there could be other IFVs at that time, but we're not publicly saying which ones we want to add yet. Sometimes people ask about LAV-25 as well because it's a contemporary thing in the 1980s. That was used by the Marines, which are not featured in our area, so no LAV as well. In case anyone's wondering how I'm hiding the HUD, there's a secret keybind. Left control F1 will turn off your HUD. but it will also turn off all of the menus and things that you want to be able to use. So it's only really used for cinematic stuff.
Any vehicles variants which got cut in development, if you are fine disclosing about it.
Yes.
You'll learn about that when development ends, or
Well,
Action wants to say right now.
there's one that I can cover without any... I mean, I think we've talked about it before.
Okay.
In the very early days of the project, we hadn't settled on the full 1985 theater yet. So we made a couple of different tank variants that were like, this is probably relevant. One of them was the T-55A, I want to say 1981, Soviet mod of the T-55A that had a KTD laser rangefinder and smoke grenades on the turret. It's not the T-55AM, which people are familiar with, but it's like the intermediate step before that. No add-on armor, but it has the laser rangefinder and the smoke. And that model was done enough that we used it to test the art pipeline, and we got some screenshots of it. And those screenshots are still floating around. You can find them if you look. And so people will occasionally stumble across them and say, hey, when are we getting the T-55A? And that's not coming. It was an early prototype. Alright, I'll tell you what, let's do a regular mission, because I'm yapping too much to do this.
Because you won't be yapping during a regular mission.
No, but
Difficulty.
hitting the moving shots requires more concentration than I'm willing to give right now.
Okay.
It's a good scenario that should be easy, but I'll get my butt kicked because it's improved AI. Let's do Silver Dart. Last time I tried Silver Dart after the overhaul, I got absolutely rolled. Because they came up the hill pointing at me instead of looking off to the side randomly.
What do you have your AI settings at, by the way?
I have mine at 100%, which is standard.
Alright, yeah.
Someone said, you really hate the GIS that much? I don't hate the GIS, but I don't want to sit there and try to get my manual shots while I'm talking, so let's just take advantage of the fire control system. I'm playing in a release build right now as well, so I don't have my cheats available. Or else I would just turn on God mode for that.
There you go. Rookie move right there. Folks asking if there will be a sandbox mode. Doubtful.
Re-engage.
More likely, no. I knew you were going to do that. It's not a focus in our development right now. And you might think that that would be very cool for something to test with, people to play with. I would agree, but for right now, that's not in the cards.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, we know a sandbox would be cool, but it's one of those things where we already have our list of stuff that's going to be in the game at 1.0, and anything past that is kind of like the wish list. This would be nice. So, mission editor, sandbox, that kind of thing, they're on the this would be nice list. We'll see what we have time for as we continue to work on the game, but we can't answer that yet. Okay, so I fired a shot, and that BRDM had plenty of time to see me before I took it out. So, in all likelihood, the enemy radio net is now lit up with, hey, there's a tank here. Which means I have to be very careful. As I crest, anything that's in the area is going to be looking at me. I'm going to try to get a peek.
Can you go into that a little bit more on the sighting stuff? So one guy will see you, and then there's a time
frame
between when the other ones will.
So, you guys might remember we have the tactical map, and you can see on the map, well, there's nobody spotted right now, but when people get spotted on the map, that's because of the radio net simulation. So all the friendly units have, when they spot something, they relay the message up if they survive long enough. And then HQ spreads the message back down. And there's some, depending on what kind of level it's at, platoon or individual, and there's some quicker times if you're in the same group, but generally speaking, reports propagate up and then back down, and there's some transmission delay involved in that. And when they arrive from somebody else's unit to your unit through that net, they show up on the map. You might have noticed there's a delay between when you hear the sound of gunfire in the distance from your scouts or someone engaging something, and when it actually shows up on the map as an orange enemy unit marker. That system is pretty solid. It works well. I think, Kavi, didn't you make that system actually? Or the bulk of it?
Rewrote from a prototype, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, God, they're gonna approach me while I'm talking.
I was just telling you that.
All right, we're gonna do a little sneaky here. So anyway, the radio system, it works well, but previously it was only available for friendlies. And as a result, the enemy would always be operating on their individual tactics and their individual awareness. And to make matters worse, they didn't have object permanence. So if you pulled up over a hill and you shot at somebody, and then you backed off and waited, they would say, well, I can't see anyone anymore, I'm gonna go back to scanning for targets. And then you wait till their turrets turn 45 degrees to the side, you come back up, you blast them. You know, that's not very engaging gameplay. So we said, look, let's just make the enemies able to use the radio net as well. They have their own copy of the radio net. They send reports up and down. And so when you get spotted by a scout, you have a few seconds to kill the scout before it sees you and sends that message. If you let them get the message out before they die, the whole enemy team will know you're coming. And they only get your last known position, right? Those pings on the map, they're not live updates unless the vehicle's currently being spotted. So if you kill the scout, they know that you were there at that time, and that's it. And so as you come up over additional ridges or whatever, you see other units, a portion of their platoons will be looking for that report. They'll say, okay, we're assigned to guard this sector, but our scout saw a guy over here off to the left. A couple of our guys need to go watch that spot in case he shows up. That's basically how the reasoning works. So in practice, if you try to flank, if you come up on an enemy platoon and you're like, I know they're looking at this valley, I'm gonna come over this hill on the side, you'll find that a couple of them are watching for you. They kind of have you pre-aimed, and it's not because they're cheating. I've seen people say, well, yeah, AI just knows where you are all the time, and it's not really doing anything complicated. And that's not quite true. We could have done it that way, but they are looking at the last known position from the report. We made a very deliberate effort to simulate what a person would know in the situation, and even down to after they see you, like how they take the time to aim at you and dial in the range and everything. That's simulated per fire control system now. So we do as little cheating as possible in the NPC AI. I'm actually pretty proud of how it turned out, because if you play aggressive, you're gonna find that they sort of seem like they expect you because of, you know, how sloppy you are with being spotted. So it forces you to reposition more and do a lot more conservative plays. Now I'm in a bad position here. I've been rolled up on, they know I'm here. I'm going to cast an artillery these guys and try to get somewhere else. Do I want left or right? Let's go left.
It's a different game after AI updates. Congrats. Thank you.
Now there are some obvious places for improvement in this system. Like you might say, okay, it's all well and good that they can anticipate where you're going to be, but if you know that the enemy's flanking, why would you not reorient and change your positions or go after them? And that's true. So the thing with that is AI in video games is always, it's always a formula. There are always rules that you have to define And you have to be very careful about those rules because they cannot think. No matter how good the simulation is, they are not thinking. They are following a list, a checklist that a programmer made for them. So we have to think pretty hard about that checklist before we implement it. So we're working on prototypes for additional behaviors. Is that my CAS? Or a flyover? That's my CAS. Okay. Alright, I should have shown the... Okay, so I'm outside the bounds as well. Oops. So there was a message from CAS there that they were attacking. That's new as well.
Destroying the radio will prevent messages from being sent out, yes.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that part. The radio has to be operational for that system to work. So if you kill the power of an enemy vehicle or the engine module itself, oh god, alright. They will not be able to send or receive those alerts. And this is one of, oh fuck. This is one of the things that artillery is useful for. One of the things artillery is useful for is you can knock out their communications equipment with the overpressure. You might not kill the vehicle every time, especially with artillery instead of CAS, but you can do enough system damage to make it worthwhile. Let's get some more Sabo up. So I went out of bounds and they sent a CAS mission after me. That's the kind of the soft penalty for trying to cheese the mission. And I got my crew wounded by blast pressure. Seen a lot of people theorize that there's no overpressure or that the overpressure only works on troops, and that's not true. It's just a little wonky sometimes. Because overpressure in air, blast waves in open air, they fall off fairly quickly. A lot of the damage is from fragmentation, and our frag model is not quite up to the level of the real HE shells that would be in the game. So actual blast overpressure, especially through armor, you're not going to do a lot in most cases. Now there are revisions planned for the HE system, but right now I'm not going to go into too much detail on that because it's still a prototype. But yeah, the overpressure is real. It does do its job some of the time, and it will do very likely more in the future when we've revised that. I saw somebody asking about graphical improvements. There are always things that we try to do to make things better, but it's one of those things where we're pretty happy with how the game looks already. So if there was never another graphical change before release, I would consider that fine. I'd say the game looks good. That said, we do have artists on the team who are constantly looking for ways to improve it, and they will likely do several changes before the game comes out. I think I've seen some stuff with the trees. There's some revisions being worked on, some sky fixes. So there will be changes, but the look that you see in general is going to be the way the game looks. Nothing crazy different from now till release.
So we're not going to support ray tracing.
No ray tracing. Okay, so the platoon has communicated within itself that there's a threat off to the right. Because some of this stuff doesn't require the radio system, by the way, to function. These guys are taking fire. They're telling their immediate platoon mates that there's a threat, and now I have to reposition. Now I can still cheese them a little bit because they're not able to move. They're only able to look.
Any plans on implementing commander's optics, in particular on Soviet vehicles?
Yep, planned. The crew overhaul on the roadmap. One of the come on. One of the features of the crew station overhaul is that there are hold on. My guys are a little busy here. There are features that are only accessible if you can play the game through a certain crew member's perspective, like the commander. So we will be seeing some of the Soviet command optics. The Leopard 1A4 has a commander optic. There's probably others I'm forgetting. Those will most likely make an appearance when the crew station's overhaul is done. Since when were smokescreens in the game? For quite a while now. You don't have to use the Q menu either. You can just do left control G. If the vehicle has one available, it will turn on and off with that. How much ammo do I have here? Yeah, that's fine.
How many people do you have currently working on the game? 10?
Yeah, I like to say the number of active devs at any given time is probably about 10. Sometimes people pop in and out because they're contractors, freelancers, whatever, and they have other stuff to do. Or we don't always have work for a specific person. Man.
With respect to AI, any plans to introduce errors for the AI, like continuing to engage with a vehicle that's been knocked out, cast fire support friendly fire?
No. That stuff can happen in real life, but it's one of those things where if it happens in the game, it will feel like a bug rather than a deliberate feature. I mean, imagine getting bombed by your own casts, and we're like, yeah, that was supposed to happen. Hope you had fun clicking the restart button. Like, it's not really the move, I don't think. All right, let's play something different here.
We have all of the vehicles crewed with people of a given competence that they wouldn't actively do that. So if you see a problem there, it's gonna be looked at as a bug. That's the thing we don't want to try and mimic.
I was wondering what got me. Ooh, this is filthy. This guy's camping in a bush. Alright.
That's great.
Fair
Smart
play.
move.
Yep, I was like, oh, no one will see me from the left. All the guys are over here. Yeah. Sometimes they get you. Is ground deformation and building destruction planned? Ground deformation we already have. Building destruction, I'm not sure. I wouldn't count on it. Let's do something on Eastern Road. Apparently I've never finished Road Not Taken. Maybe we'll do an attempt on here.
Will there be any other merchandise from the game? We have a merch store up on Redbubble. You can get there through gunnerheatpc.com.
Yeah.
If you want some stuff that we've put there ages ago, but I mean, it's possible. We think about designs here and there. We're mostly just focused on the game right now.
I'm not sure if I've actually talked about the elephant yet, so Leopard 2 is pretty far along, but we're not releasing it right now because we're busy working on features. There's no rush to release vehicles specifically. There's enough vehicles in the game. So we're just holding back on it until a moment when we feel like, yeah, let's throw it in. I know that's disappointing for people who are basically just holding out until we add Leopard 2, but, you know, it'll get in when it's in. The game's not done. Alright, what are we doing here?
Anytime someone asks, we push it back like a day.
Exactly. So we are attacking one objective. I'm sure nothing will come down this road to contest that. We have Martyr with troops, Martyr with troops, and... Okay, so these are all just my guys. Alright. Seems simple enough. I doubt it will be simple. Based on the distances here, I'm gonna pre-range to like 800 and see what happens. I always pre-range... Actually, let's do 6. I always pre-range in vehicles that have no laser rangefinder, because the time that you waste trying to judge the range or adjust your shots, it can get you killed. Even if I have a coincidence rangefinder, I like to pre-range, because at least that puts me closer to the correct amount.
So what, you're thinking of a general range that you'll range out to
Yeah,
try and cover edge cases?
because
Alright.
I can look at the grid on the map, and like the heavy lines are 1 kilometer apart, and the small grid squares are 100 meters. So I can look at this and say, okay, there's a lot of little patches of forest. I'm not gonna get a lot of sight lines that are past 1 kilometer, and many of them are gonna be like 500 meters. So I set it to 600, and I'll go from there. I'm expecting close range contact, because I'm already like... What is this? I think I'm 1 kilometer away from the objective already. So most of what I see is going to be within that distance, even now. Let's get our sight zoomed in here, and it looks like we have the... What are we? A1 plus? So we have thermal pointer, but the night sight's going to be kind of awkward to use in the day, so I'm going to skip it.
Ruler on map when? That's going to be our first DLC.
Heh. I think ruler on map would be neat, but you can also... what I do is I hold up my hand in front of my screen and I say, that looks about that far, and then that's my ruler.
That's usually what I do, yeah.
So this is a tough scenario because I have 3 IFVs and no detached scouts. I basically have to keep head on a swivel and do my own scouting. It's not an ideal scenario. It's very dangerous. What else we got question-wise?
Good question. Any chance of season changes pre 1.0?
I would say there's a chance of something happening there. I don't know if there's much more to say yet, but we've looked into some stuff. We'll see.
Any plans to add voice lines for unfriendly spot enemies to complement the list that you have now?
So there's a lot of stuff that we could add voice lines for. The problem with voice lines is that they are very labor intensive, both on the part of the actors and on the part of the people integrating them into the game. A lot of manual cataloging and tagging of stuff. So at this point, additional voice lines are a luxury item. And I don't anticipate doing any major overhauls on the voice system, but it's still possible that if we have time later, we could add additional stuff for contact reports or whatnot.
Yeah, we wrote up a lot of those lines and the script for them at the time of the features that we knew we were going to have. And as games evolve, in early access, other things come up. So if we want to do an additional pass, like Action said, it's like, okay, maybe we can plan for that, but right now, not something we're looking to.
I love the unstabilized martyr. It really makes you work for it.
Post GHPC game, yeah, we're planning on a visual novel.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be just completely different, well out of our wheelhouse. We like to take challenges like that.
Oh.
The M901 will be playable in the future. I say that strongly because I was working on that until quite recently.
Yeah, the M901 is actually quite close to playable right now.
Auto battler with cookie clicker side. That's how you make the money. Briefly mentioned ATGM carriers at the start of the stream. Any plans for those?
Yeah, there are actually plans for those. If I have time, let's see if I can. Here, let me get my guys on echelon left. What am I doing here? I wonder if I can pull up the actual list here from the FAQ. Just really quickly while we're on the topic, because I meant to show this at some point anyway. There is a spreadsheet that we maintain that shows every vehicle that we have publicly revealed or is already released. Let me find it here. I linked it from the FAQ to make it easy to find, because it was linked in Discord, but not everybody uses the Discord. Let's see here.
Respect for them.
Huh.
Too much of my life is now in Discord.
Yeah, it's a little concerning how much Discord is used for stuff. If they ever go worse than they already have, it'll be hard to migrate. Okay, so the spreadsheet, it's organized by country. So we have all the American stuff here. Everything is released except for the M901. And this doesn't show any unannounced in development vehicles. This is just stuff that we've revealed. So for example, what's a vehicle that never got on here before it released? I think the PT-76 just showed up with no prior notification. There's been several like that. So don't take this as the full vehicle list, but this is everything we've confirmed. So Leopard 2 is confirmed, it's in development. We have all these Leopard 1 variants. Got the Martyrs. Looks is confirmed, it's in development. Someone asked about ATGM carriers. Those are on the Soviet and East German lists. Let's go find them. Here we go. 9P148 is a Conqueror's carrier, BRDM, that is in development. And then for East Germany, we have very similar, but not quite the same. 9P133 is a Malyutka carrier. If my images load here. Okay, yeah. So this early screenshot, it's a little bit blurred out, but it's got a like a roof hatch that raises and lowers, and it has a rack of Melyuka missiles like what's on the BMP-1. Except this thing has the semi-automatic command to line of sight Melyuka, the one that you can just point and it will steer for you, which will, I guess that'll be the best missile because the Melyuka is already the best missile when you have to steer it yourself, so automatic steering is even better. Anyway, these should be fun to play when they arrive, but they're not released yet. I can think of a couple other things that might show up, but they're not on the spreadsheet, so they're not real. They don't exist. Alright, let's get this cleared out of here.
Someone asked about Warhammer 40k. I like Warhammer 40k. Someone else can go and mod Warhammer 40k tanks in. There. The challenge has been put out.
Yep. There's out of all the things that I would expect people would be interested enough to add on their own, I think, well, anyway, as I was saying, I think Warhammer and Star Wars are the ones that people are passionate enough about to mod into basically everything. We'll see what happens.
My life will be complete when someone mods in the Ford F-150. Saying.
A truck.
Or a Bob Simple, yeah.
There's already a Bob Simple.
No, there's not.
Oh, that's true. That's just a rock.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You were confused.
Bob Simple is not real. It can't hurt you. Screenshot of Bob Simple. Alright, we got a few more minutes. So what do we got question wise?
Will players lose the ability to control the gunner and driver at the same time once detailed crews are added?
They will not. Since you have to be able to play the game yourself, you will always be able to drive while you do other stuff. Driver is not simulated in detail. We're not making you shift gears or do any of that because we just want you to be able to WASD on the keyboard while you handle the other's tasks. Deserved.
Can I drink and drive when the crew update releases? Whatever you do while playing American Truck Simulator is your own business.
The question isn't whether you can drink and drive. The question is what happens if you do.
I ain't a lawyer. I ain't going there. We do not accept scans of modern tanks.
Well, it depends which modern tank.
I suppose. I'll just leave it general at that point.
I would say if you are taking 3D scans and you want to give us scans for free, like, yeah, sure. Same with audio recordings and things like that. We've sometimes an exact replica of the 1980s version of a vehicle is not available, so a scan of a more modern one is useful. But we've already got the scans for everything that's in the game right now. If you think you have something that will be useful to us later and you wanna chat about it, send us an email. There's a email address on the website. We've got some stuff stocked up for DLC work that could be useful.
Alright, I've seen this question a couple of times. Are laser rangefinders, in your opinion, Josh, less accurate for slower rounds like Heat and HE?
No, the laser rangefinder isn't less accurate. The slower the round is, the more chance there is for it to deviate noticeably. So if you get a bad laze or the fire control system ballistics are not perfect, you'll notice it more with a slower round like heat. Sabo disguises your imperfections much more easily because the round just, it flies so much further in the time it takes to drop or deviate. You're going to have a tighter accuracy cone in general from every source of error. That's actually the reason that emergency main gun engagements of helicopters were doctrinally supposed to be done with Sabo in this era. If you look at the American tank gunner manuals from the 80s, they'll have a little chart of what kind of ammunition to use for which targets. And it says for chopper, the preferred round is APFSDS because you shoot that thing much faster. The velocity of that round is much faster than heat. So even though heat might do more damage if it hits a helicopter, theoretically, Sabo will give you the best chance of hitting at all, which is more important. I assume that's the reason they were using anyway. Later they developed rounds that were more suited toward direct engagements of helicopters, but those didn't exist in this time period. Now I would rather not have to shoot at helicopters at all, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, they get annoying. Speaking of that, will there be anti-aircraft vehicles?
I'm not gonna say never, but I wouldn't count on it in the near future. There's a lot of different kinds of vehicles that we could theoretically add as set dressing or support assets or whatever, but right now we're focused on the stuff that'll get us to 1.0, and that's whatever's on the roadmap. So since self-propelled anti-air isn't on the roadmap, it's not considered to be something that's happening. I would love to have Shilkas kicking around, but yeah, it's not always in the cards.
What else planned for an expanded campaign? You can see some of that on our timeline, our roadmap rather, but that would be too much for us to get into here.
Yes.
I think you died.
I think I died. I think you're right. What? Oh my god,
sure
this guy's here. Yeah, that's what I thought. Alright.
No Steam Workshop integration plans.
Nope.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much was your death Kavi's fault?
Oh yeah, that's 11 at least.
Yeah. The scale is wrong. In fact, earlier in the stream, when Josh was getting ready to do the second mission, I explicitly decided to ask him to go into the radio content, and that made him start talking and got messed up by it. Like, I'm just here to troll him.
I don't like this situation here. What have I got waypoint wise?
Do you think you can end the stream on a high note?
What kind of high note would that be?
You winning.
You gotta think more realistic here. Oh, they're behind me.
There will never be AI slop and 80 euro vehicles in our game.
Yeah.
There will especially never be AI slop. And we don't do microtransactions or pay-to-win vehicles, so yeah, that's not happening either.
Yeah, I know the state of the games industry is pretty fucking sad right now, and it's considered normal to milk everybody for profit, but We're just trying to make something that we think is cool, and that gives us the ability to say, no, why would we do that stuff? We're not in it for that. Alright, so I dropped off my guys. They will move up as they can. Although, wow, they got hit. Okay, so I have my guy. And he has secured the objective. Let's fucking go. Uh-oh. Wait, there's enemy troops. They're trying to ruin my moment of triumph.
You just go and stop them.
I'll try. Where are they? Fuck. Alright, they almost got me. Anyway, I technically won.
You did win.
You guys can put that on your scorecards. Action won a mission on stream.
I won my bet on Kalshi, thank you.
God. Don't even get me started.
I knew it.
And just to clarify, that doesn't mean I'm gambling. That means I hate the gambling.
Oh, yeah. That is a joke. I hate both of those. All of those systems. I say both because there's only two, the mainstream ones, but
yeah,
they're honestly garbage.
I can't say what needs to happen to those companies or they'll delete my channel. But in any case, we won the mission.
Good job.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of you. You've come a long way.
Uh-huh. Thanks. Nice impact craters on the ground here.
Oh yeah. Is this the first time we're showing those? No. That was
the first time they've been shown on stream. But yeah, they're in the live release of the game right now. Yeah, that was one of the things that just came out. Anyway, we are running out of time, so I think it's about time to get to the Patreon Q&A, which happens every month, regardless of whether there's a dev stream. And that's where we are a little bit more open. We show some prototype stuff or whatever because it's more of a closed context and we can give proper explanation and whatnot, and a little bonus for people who are supporting. But we'll see you guys for the next one, and of course keep an eye out for new game updates. We try to get those every month and a half on average, something like that. So
yeah,
always something changing, always something getting better. We're coming up on the end of the roadmap, you know, before too long, so that'll be nice.
Yes, indeed. If you want to support us further or interact with us more, links to our Discord, Patreon, FAQ, all that fun stuff is over at gutterheatpc.com. Come join us. Hope you're enjoying the game. And yeah, I think that's it.